I wanted to give you a little more information on the Pilgrims, and then I'll give you more information on the Puritans. Like I said before, I just wanted to break it down and make that quick division and then talk a little bit more about each one. Now, this is going to be shorter than the Puritan one because, the Puritan legacy is incredible. But let's take a look at the Pilgrim one here first. So William Bradford was the one that led the Pilgrims to Plymouth. He was, this was the Mayflower that came over. They landed in Plymouth, like I mentioned. They wanted to go to Virginia, but I think Plymouth was a name that was already given to the area before they arrived. So they arrived there. He was the first governor of Plymouth Colony. Here's a statue of him, and you can see the specific style of how people dressed, and it's have the cape on to keep warm. Also, it's got this regal appeal to it. Very, the hats, the way the hat he's wearing, the distinct style. So he helped establish the Mayflower Compact, which was their protectionist treatise that established the protection of individual rights, is the way they set up their government on that. So his contribution to letters was of Plymouth Plantation. And he wrote this manuscript, obviously way back, but it was put together by, I believe, the Massachusetts Historical Society and published in 1856. This was, I think it went back into the Massachusetts legislature right after that, but it's an important document because other writers drew from this manuscript when they wrote about their own observations of this area. This is very interesting because on Plymouth Plantation it's always interesting to see the first account of something that's written, because a lot of people that come afterwards, they weren't the first people, but they also have, they want to draw on what the first observations were and then write their own account of that. So this is something that's happened not only in Spain, or not only in North America, but it also happened with a lot of the Spanish explorers. You've got Christopher Columbus and Hernán Cortés and Cabeza de Vaca, and later, some of the later people, the later writers that wrote these crónicas, took from some of the original texts. And this is what happened with, in this case, with a Plymouth Plantation. And it's kind of curious because, Cotton Mather took some of the ideas. We'll see that in a future slide. But it's interesting because, people read Cotton Mather's version before they read this version, because this version wasn't published until 1856, and he published his stuff way before that. So, it's kind of interesting and important that scholars, kind of trace this step back and see where things were taken from and what the origins are of what texts and documents we have today. But this document is interesting. It's written in plain style because he really wanted to make it accessible to people and have a large readership. He wanted people to understand what it was about. So he's not writing to impress people. Christopher Columbus, he wrote in a certain way so he could impress Fernando Isabel about his trip to the New World, because he wanted to write in such a way that justified his going. So everything he wrote was, we can do this, we can do that. And he was writing for that audience. But it's interesting, in this case, it's written for a large readership. So that's great, because if something's written in that sense, like I said, a lot of these first documents were written for people to access them and to entice people to travel to the New World, to come join either temporarily or come and stay. A lot of people came over for religious freedom. That was the main part of the trip. But there, like I mentioned, there were a lot of commercial interests involved with it too. And this document is important because it tells of the Pilgrims' arrival, their hardship and survival. And as you'll see in the text of this time, there's constant reference to giving thanks to God, which is, like I said, the reason that they took the trip, and so they could have that autonomy away from England.